Have you ever felt like someone was watching you in the dark? An invisible gaze lurked right behind you, but when you turned around, there was no one? Tonight, I will tell you about a cursed house, a place where anyone who sets foot in cannot return. And if you are watching this video, make sure you are not alone. Abandoned house. That night, the sky was pitch black, without a single starlight. The wind whistled through the trees, creating terrifying sounds like someone whispering right in the ear. I shivered when I arrived at the end of town, where there was a long abandoned house. It stood there, alone in the darkness, silent as a testament to the terrible things that had happened. The house is old, with rotten wooden door frames and covered with spider webs. I reached out and gently pushed the door. A creaking sound rang out like someone groaning. Inside, a musty smell rushed into my nose, mixed with something more disgusting, like the smell of decay. I turned on the flashlight. Weak light swept through the peeling walls, illuminating old furniture covered in dust. Everything seemed to have been left behind in a hurry. The chairs were tilted. The dining table still had broken dishes, as if someone had run away in the middle of dinner. But the scariest thing is not the desolation, but the feeling of being watched. A chill ran down my spine when I realized, right in the middle of the room, there was a large mirror. In the dark, my reflection was distorted, or maybe it wasn't me at all. 30-year curse. More than 30 years ago, this place used to be the home of a small family, Mr. Hai and his wife and their daughter named In. They lived a peaceful life until one stormy night. The next morning, people discovered Mr. Hai's body hanging from the rafters. His face was distorted and twisted in extreme pain, and the little daughter disappeared without a trace. Since then, the house has been abandoned. People began to tell each other about strange phenomena. Some people said that on full moon nights, they heard the sobbing sound of a little girl coming from inside the house. Others said they saw the silhouette of a girl in a white dress standing by the window, her empty eyes staring into the darkness. No one dared to enter, until one day, a group of young people, out of curiosity, decided to explore the abandoned house. Fateful night. Min, Nam, Lin and Hung stood in front of an abandoned house, where strange things were rumored to happen. Lin hugged her hands tightly, her voice trembling. "Are you sure we should come in?" Min smirked, his eyes full of challenge. "Isn't our purpose to test our courage?" Without waiting for an answer, Min pushed open the old door and walked in. Inside is dark, cold. The air is stuffy as if compressed by years of abandonment. The flickering flashlight shines on the wall, revealing an old dusty photo.
Linh Sudenli Shiver.
In the photo is a man standing next to a little girl, but the girl's eyes seem to be following them, no matter which corner they stand in. "I don't like this place." Lin stepped back, but Nam discovered a small door leading to the basement. His curious nature urged him to move towards it. Nam opened the basement door. A stream of musty air rose up, dark as ink. Hung held Min's hand tightly, hesitantly. "Don't go down there, please." But Nam stepped down. The group had no choice but to follow. Below is a small room with only a few old items. But in the midst of the darkness, something made Hung scream. An old doll, disheveled hair, empty glass eyes. At that moment, boom! The basement door slammed shut. The cold wind blew past, accompanied by a whispering voice. "What are you guys doing here?" The whole group panicked. The flashlight flashed continuously, darkness enveloped. And then, in the flickering light, a little girl with long, flowing hair appeared. The girl's old white dress was covered in dirt. She stood still, then slowly raised her head. The eyes are white and lifeless. She spoke coldly. "Are you coming to find me?" The group shouted. Everything went dark. Min woke up. He was lying on the empty ground in front of the abandoned house. Rapid breathing, heart beating wildly. He turned around, didn't see Nam, Lin, or Hung anywhere. The house still stood there, silent as if nothing had ever happened. But Min knows something is still waiting inside. He ran away. Don't dare look back. When she got home, Lin opened her backpack and was dumbfounded. Inside is the doll from the basement. She panicked and threw it away, but no matter where she threw it, it always came back. And then, every night, Lynn heard a whisper right in her ear. "Give it back to me." The next day, people found 4 broken phones in front of the abandoned house. No one knows where Min, Nam, Lin, and Hung went. They disappeared without a trace. A week later, someone passed by the house at night. They swore they saw 4 shadows standing behind the window. But the scariest thing, next to them, there was also a little girl wearing a white dress, her face distorted in the faint moonlight. New group enters. A few months later, another group of 3 people, Hui, Fong, and Tao, accidentally passed by the abandoned house. They heard about the strange disappearance of the previous group and decided to explore to find the truth. When entering, they immediately felt the stuffy and cold atmosphere. Tao discovered an old diary lying on the floor, with yellowed pages filled with scribbled words. "Don't come in." At that moment, from the 2nd floor, the sound of slow footsteps rang out. They looked up and saw a shadow of a person standing quietly on the stairs. Then, that black shadow slowly walked down. A faint smile appeared. "Do you dare enter this house? Room number 306. Lam is an ordinary office worker who just went through a stressful period of work and decided to reward himself with a short trip to a peaceful small town. This town has nothing special except fresh air and an old but clean hotel, where he will stay for 2 nights. This hotel has a classic style, with yellowed walls and creaky wooden floors. The receptionist, a middle-aged man with sunken eyes, looked at Lam with questioning eyes when he received the room key. "Are you in room 306? He stopped for a moment and then smiled faintly. "Good night." Lam didn't pay much attention. He carried his suitcase to the 3rd floor. The hallway was long and quiet. The ceiling light flickered like it was about to burn out. When he opened the door to room 306, a cold air swept over him, making him shiver involuntarily. Inside, the room is quite simple, with a large bed, an old desk, and a large mirror placed right opposite the bed. Lam doesn't like mirrors in the bedroom, but because he's tired, he doesn't care much. After showering, he climbed into bed, pulled the blanket over himself, and closed his eyes. Then, in the middle of the night, there was a knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock. The knocking sound was light but echoed in the quiet space. Lam opened his eyes, feeling uncomfortable. Who would knock on the door in the middle of the night? He listened for a moment, but the tapping stopped. He was about to go back to sleep when, knock, knock, knock. This time, the sound was clearer. He jumped up, walked to the door, and opened it. The hallway is empty. The cold wind passed through the window at the end of the hallway, causing the curtains to flutter. He sighed, shook his head, and closed the door, telling himself that maybe he heard wrong. He went back to bed, but this time, the uncomfortable feeling stuck with him. The mirror opposite reflected the image of the dim room, and Lam suddenly stopped. Something's not right. In the mirror, the closet door was slightly open, though he clearly remembered that he had never touched it. A feeling of insecurity filled his heart, but he tried to calm himself. It's probably just the wind. He turned his face to the wall, closed his eyes, and continued to sleep. But when he just fell asleep, knock, 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 the knock on the door rang again. This time, it didn't come from the main door. It came from inside the closet. Lam's throat was dry. He didn't dare turn back. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became stuffy. His heart was pounding, drops of cold sweat running down his spine. Knock, knock, knock. He squeezed his hand. Finally, unable to bear it anymore, he jumped up, rushed to the closet, and yanked the door open. Inside, nothing. The space is dark. Only the hanger hangs. He breathed a sigh of relief. Maybe I'm too stressed. But just as he was about to close the closet door, something flashed out of the corner of his eye. He stiffened. On the mirror mounted in the wardrobe, there was a figure standing behind him. That person is not present. Just an empty head, as black as a deep hole.
Làm sao Tết? Pha Linh bắt quát.
But when he looked back, the mirror was blank. Nothing. He trembled, quickly grabbed his phone, turned on the flashlight, and scanned the room. Nothing out of the ordinary. He immediately packed his things and left the room that night. The next morning, when he went down to the reception desk, the middle-aged man looked at him, as if he knew something. "Did you see it too?" Lam was stunned. The receptionist sighed. "Room 306. Not everyone can stay." Lam did not ask anything more. He left the hotel immediately. On the way to the car, he glanced up at the third floor. From the window of room 306, there was a dim shadow looking down at him. Curse of the Night song. Do you ever feel like you're not really alone when working the night shift? I used to think that the strange things in the store were just due to fatigue and my imagination. But then, a series of mysterious events happened, making it impossible for me to deny that something was following me. I work at a convenience store. The night shift starts from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. My job is simple. Check inventory, clear aisles, make sure everything is tidy. But recently, I started noticing strange things. Mysterious doorbell ringing. It all started on an ordinary night. I was checking the inventory when suddenly, the doorbell rang. I was startled and walked to the checkout counter, but there was no one there. The front door remained closed. The security system did not notify anyone entering or exiting. I checked the surveillance camera. Strangely, it didn't register any movement, but the doorbell still rang. I thought to myself maybe there was a problem with the electrical system, but then it kept happening night after night. One night I even heard a small sound in the loudspeaker system, like a whispering voice, but when I checked again, the speaker was still off. Feeling of being watched. A week later, I decided to stay later to check what was really going on. When I went to check the frozen goods, I felt something strange. Not a clear sound, but a feeling that someone was standing right behind me. I turned around, there was no one. There are only silent shelves and cold fluorescent lights. But at that moment, a can of yogurt fell to the floor. I was startled, my heart beating fast. I bent down to pick it up and noticed a wet stain on the floor, like someone had just walked by with wet feet. Security cameras and mysteries in the basement. I reported the incident to management. He just shrugged, saying it was probably a technical error. But I couldn't ignore the feeling of insecurity, so I decided to check the surveillance cameras again. I sat down in front of the screen, rewinding the video to the moment I heard the yogurt can drop. The strange thing is, on the video, the yogurt can falls without anyone touching it. But what sent chills down my spine was the moment immediately after. The camera shook violently, as if someone had just touched it. Following the trail, I discovered that the camera in the basement also showed signs of being affected. Although I had never been down there at night, this time I decided to check it out. These sounds should not exist. The basement was dark, with only weak light from my flashlight. It is a place to store old goods and rarely used things. I slowly walked in, each step echoing in the silent space. But as I approached the row of lockers, I heard a strange sound, the sound of metal rubbing together, long and heavy. My heart was pounding. I shined my light towards the source of the sound. One of the metal cabinets was slightly opened. I approached, my trembling fingers touching the door. A cold wind blew across the back of my neck. The inside of the cupboard is empty, but a strange scent arose, old perfume, mixed with something like the smell of rust. I quickly closed the closet door and left. When I returned to the surveillance room, I checked the basement cameras recording again. This time, I saw clearly. The cabinet door opened, without anyone touching it, black shadow on the screen. After that night, I started to pay more attention. Every time the doorbell rings and no one is there, I will check the camera immediately. One time, I saw something flicker on the screen, a dark figure moving very quickly, as if it were running across the store. I broke into a cold sweat, but when I rewinded to check more closely, there was nothing. The shadow had disappeared, as if it had never existed. That night, I decided to leave the store early. I don't want to stay to see anything more. As I walked out to the parking lot, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around, there was no one. But when I looked in the store window, I saw it. A tall, thin figure stood right inside the store, looking out through the glass. But the store was locked, and I was sure I was the last to leave. curse of the store. I cannot continue to keep silent. I told everything to a colleague who worked the morning shift. He stared at me, then sighed. Haven't you heard about this? There was a disappearance at this store. A night shift employee disappeared without a trace. The police found nothing. Only surveillance cameras recorded him going into the basement and never coming back. I felt like my blood was freezing. My whole body got goosebumps. From that night, I never dared to check the basement alone again. And every time the doorbell rang at night, I just quietly looked up at the camera screen. Because I know there's probably someone or something standing outside. And next time you go grocery shopping in the middle of the night, remember to look at the security cameras. Are you sure you're the only one there? Woman on the side of the road. Michael is a long-haul truck driver. His work often takes him through deserted streets at night, where there are only car lights and endless darkness. Late one night, while driving on an interstate in Texas, it suddenly began to rain. Heavy raindrops fell on the windshield, forming sparkling streams under the headlights. Far away, he saw a figure standing on the side of the road. It was a woman, wearing a wet white dress, her long hair falling down to cover most of her face. Michael slowed down and stopped the car. The girl seemed to be shivering from the cold. He rolled down the window and asked, "Do you need help? I can take you to the nearest town." The girl was silent for a long moment, then nodded slightly. Michael opened the car door and put her on the seat next to him. She didn't say anything, just sat still, her cold hands resting on her thighs. On the way, Michael tried to start a conversation to break the silence. "Where are you going at this hour? Is your car broken down?" The girl did not answer. Michael glanced over and noticed something strange. Even though it was raining heavily, there wasn't a single drop of water on her body. A creepy feeling began to creep inside him. Then the girl spoke softly, her voice as light as the wind. "Go straight to the end of the road." Michael swallowed. He felt something wasn't right, but continued driving. When arriving at an old bridge, the girl suddenly said, "Stop, I'll get off here." Michael was confused, but complied. When he turned to look at her, the seat next to him was empty. The girl disappeared. Michael looked around in panic, but there was no one. Only the chair was left soaked with water, even though the girl had never touched a single drop of rain. Later, when telling this story to a local resident, he turned pale. "I've met Mary's ghost. She was once a bride, died in an accident right on this bridge. Every rainy night, she appears, waiting for someone to take her home, but she never comes." Michael never passed that way again. But on rainy nights on Texas highways, someone still sees a girl in a white dress, standing on the side of the road. House number 79, the mystery of the uninhabited house. Sarah and David are a young couple who have just moved to a small town in Pennsylvania. They found an old house at an unexpectedly cheap price, only half the market price. The previous owner seemed to want to sell it as quickly as possible. The house has beautiful architecture, but has been vacant for many years. The paint is peeling, the windows are covered in dust, and the backyard is overrun with weeds. But for Sarah and David, this is a good opportunity to start a new life. Little did they know, this house had a dark history. From the first night, Sarah had the feeling that someone was looking at her. Footsteps sounded on the second floor, even though both husband and wife were downstairs. The windows sometimes open by themselves in the middle of the night, even though they are locked. One time, while Sarah was washing the dishes, she saw a figure reflected in the kitchen cabinet glass door. When I turned back, there was no one there. But the scariest thing is the wall in the bedroom. One night, while lying in bed, David suddenly heard a gentle tapping sound. Split, split, split. The sound came from the wall right at the head of the bed. He pressed his ear to the wall and almost held his breath. Behind the wall, there was a whisper, a choked, weak voice. "Get me out of here." They decided to learn about the history of the house. Turns out that many years ago, a boy named Jacob used to live here with his parents. One day, the boy disappeared without a trace. His parents said he ran away from home, but the townspeople always suspected something fishy. No one ever found the boy, The subsequent owners of the house all encountered strange phenomena and quickly left. Sarah and David decided to ask a team of experts to check it out. When they knocked on the wall where they heard the whispering, they discovered there was a void inside. And when they broke the wall open, they found a small skeleton buried inside. That's Jacob. The boy has never left this house. He was locked inside a wall by his own parents. After taking the remains to burial, the strange phenomena in the house disappeared. But Sarah and David couldn't stay any longer. They left immediately. House number 79 was abandoned again. And if one day someone moves in again, perhaps they will also hear a gentle tapping sound from the wall. Split, split, split. Curse of the Wooden Box. Min is an antique collector. Old things always have a special attraction for him. One day, on a trip to the northern mountains, Min stopped by a small market. Among the narrow booths, he saw a small wooden box with intricately carved patterns. When he touched it, he felt a cold air spread throughout his body. The seller, an old man, stared at Min and said, "Are you sure you want to buy it? It's not an ordinary item." Min smiled. "I just like it. Is there anything special about it?" The old man was silent for a long moment, then sighed. "This box once belonged to a family that disappeared without a trace. It is said that if you open it, something bad will happen." Min doesn't believe in superstitions, so he still decided to buy it. Since bringing the box home, Min felt the atmosphere around him became different. The first few nights, he often heard knocking on his door, but when he opened it, the hallway was empty. One time, while looking in the bathroom mirror, Min was startled to see a shadow behind him. But when I turned back, there was no one there. The strangest thing was that the box opened by itself on a rainy night. Inside was an old piece of paper, with the words written in blood-red ink. "You opened it. We will meet again." From that day on, Min started dreaming of a woman wearing a white shirt, with long hair covering her face, standing right next to his bed. She said nothing, just stared at him with empty black eyes. The dreams become more and more haunting. One night, Min woke up and found himself standing in the middle of the living room, even though he clearly remembered that he was asleep in bed. At this point, Min was really scared. He went to a temple and asked a monk for help. When he saw the box, the monk frowned slightly. "This box sealed a soul, but you broke the seal. The exorcism is performed at night." When the chanting sounded, Min felt like someone was screaming right in his ear. After the ceremony, the monk told him to take the box to a faraway place and bury it in the ground. Since then, the strange phenomena disappeared. But sometimes, in his dreams, Min still sees that box, and a familiar voice whispers, "I'll be back." Thank you for listening. If this story gives you chills, leave a comment and share your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to explore other scary mysteries with me.